How are you doing tonight, Pat? What's been going on with you?
Okay, I read your lesson that you sent about immunity and whatever is on the outside is on the inside. So I've tried to reflect on that, in the last day, um, because it makes sense. Um,
Having psychic immunity, right?
yes,
From all the psychic pollution that's in the environment, right?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so I just want to share with you, because I just got home from work and I just got a text from one of my neighbors as I was coming in. It's already dark here because it's in Massachusetts. I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but um, the neighbor said, "Oh, Pat, I need to tell you, you've got a beautiful owl in your backyard. He's been sitting there, and I hear him every so often, and so." I thought that was beautiful, but I just want to share this something with you. An owl to me is a visit from my mother from the other side, for a long time. And whenever it shows up and it sits there for hours in the same tree on the same side of the house, it's usually someone very close to me in my family, um, is about to transition to the other side. And
Wow.
so I didn't even see that owl. And the neighbor said it's been there for most of the day, towards the center of the house. So I'm just resonating with that because that just happened to me as I was coming in. So,
Well, transitions are always wonderful because you're always transitioning to higher possibilities. Every transition is an opportunity for higher possibilities. So there's a couple of different things that I wanted to go over this evening that I think is extremely important for our time. It's somewhat of a review of what I wrote about in the lesson, but I want to go into a little bit more depth on it with you here and open it up for conversation. And then I want to talk to you all about the creative process. But first, I want to talk to you about the forces of mind control that are operating in our society, and they're very, very powerful. Every time you watch a commercial, if you know about manifestation, so some of the practices for manifesting something is you think about doing it, and you think about doing it in a way that feels pleasant. And if you do that repeatedly, you find yourself your subconscious just drives you to take that action, right? That's just the way the creative process works, the process of manifesting your behavior. If there's something that you want to do, there's no such thing as procrastination. It's just ignorance of the creative process. There's something you want to do, like let's say you want to do your taxes and you feel resistant to doing it. You just think about doing it. And you think about doing it and think about having fun doing it. Imagine having a good time doing it. Imagine enjoying doing it. And you repeat that way of thinking over and over again. And then you'll find at just the right time, you have the motivation to take the action. You take the action. You do what you imagined yourself doing. That's how the creative process works. You never have to call yourself a procrastinator or lazy, or if you don't have the energy to do it now, you'll find that you have the energy to think about doing it. And just think about doing it, think about enjoying doing it, imagine yourself enjoying doing it, imagine it being simple, easy, and fun, and boom, you find yourself doing it. Now, that power is being used against you every single day. When you watch a television commercial, right, or you listen to a commercial, let's just television commercial. You see a television commercial, and it pictures somebody taking an action, right, drinking a Coca-Cola, right, eating a Big Mac, right, buying some detergent. It pictures somebody doing something, and it pictures them having a really good time doing it, right? And so every time you watch that commercial, they are manipulating your mind to practice creative visualization to get you to do something. And if you don't think it has an impact, just try it on yourself, and you'll see that it has an absolute impact on your behavior. And so you wind up being enslaved. Your behavior is enslaved by someone else's agenda. It has nothing to do with what's really good for you, what's right for you to do. You just keep visualizing yourself doing something. with a positive state associated with doing it, and boom, you're going to do it. So there's the specific programming that goes on every time you watch a commercial. Your mind is being programmed. You might think it's innocuous, it's innocent, oh, it's just a commercial, no big deal, nothing nefarious about it. It is absolute mind control. That is, they're controlling your mind to enslave your behavior to serve their desires. Now, we can open it up, and this is something I did not address in the lesson. You can open it up to a bigger level. And if you notice, every single commercial that you watch is getting you to seek pleasure and happiness from something outside yourself. That's consistent in everything, whether it's detergent or mouthwash or donuts or getting, anything. Every single commercial is programming you to go outside of yourself to find inner joy, inner peace, inner happiness. And it is having an absolute definite impact on anybody who watches it. There's no protection against it other than not watching it. Every time you watch a commercial, you are being programmed to be codependent and addicted. Every time. That's what it's about. So you have to be very careful with how much you expose yourself to that, because even if you're not going to buy that particular product, okay, that's Lisa. Even if you are not going to buy that particular product, you're going to buy into the belief that the external world, you've got to make a change out there to find the peace and happiness and joy you need in here. Is that clear? Okay, so we are living at a time when there's a war for your mind. And why that's taking place on the planet? So the same thing happens when you watch a movie or a TV show that you get, what do they say? Oh, I got hooked into that series, right? Recently, I succumbed to a friend's pressure, and I watched some Netflix on, it was called 9 Perfect Strangers. And so okay, we'll do it. It's 9 o'clock at night. Okay, fine. 10 o'clock at night, we watch like 4 episodes. So the next 3 days, I'm in a mind battle to not think about those characters. Because what happens when you watch a show? What happens when you watch a movie? You see images and you get emotionally charged, and then you feel like you have to think about it, and then you have to talk about it. And if you think about it, then you're going to talk about it, and then you become the marketing for the movie. Nothing wrong with movies. I love really good cinematic experiences, but you got to realize that if your mind is going into these characters, your mind is going into that, you're doing your work and your mind is on the plot that you watched last night, and you're wondering what's going to happen, and you talk about what's going to happen, your energy is being completely diffused. It's not coming from your true inner will of what you're doing with your attention and what you want to create with your own life. You're being controlled. Your mind is being controlled. It's being taken off of your purpose, off of your true intuitive inner guidance of what you need to do right now for you, what your true path is right now. You're off in distraction land that makes you weaker and more powerless and more controllable. So be careful. I'm not saying don't watch stuff, but when you watch something, make sure you apply discipline the next day, that you control your mind, because if you don't control your mind, you don't control your life. It's not going to go where you want it to go, right? And then it's the same thing when you watch the news. Whether you watch MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, it doesn't matter. They're all oriented toward the same thing. It's worrying about what is the Senate going to do? What is the president going to do? What is North Korea going to do? What is Putin going to do? What's going to happen to democracy? What's going to happen to the climate? And it feels like it's all in their hands. And you start feeling anxious and helpless and hopeless. And the way they dress, the way people in politicians dress, they're all dressed to make you think they have all the power and it's all up to them. Oh my God, what is Joe Manchin going to do? My whole life depends upon what he's going to do. Bullshit. okay? Your life depends entirely on what you do. If you give them your power, you do that by giving them your attention and relating to them as if they have any power at all. These people are irrelevant. They are completely powerless and irrelevant. They can send themselves to hell, but they can't take you there. When you're a conscious being, no matter what situation you find yourself in, you will thrive. You will be successful. You will live a purposeful life. You will advance in line with your purpose. Because no matter what anybody does, remember always that the universe is in charge. And the universe has a logos. The universe has a purpose. The universe has a plan. The universe is a process. And it's all nothing but a womb for your spiritual unfoldment, for your discovery that you are truly a Christ being, that you are a divine being with limitless power and limitless creativity. And everything that happens to you is exactly what you need to go to the next level in your advancement. No one can interfere with that. No one has any power over that. The devil can come in, and whatever the devil wants to do, he's still under the rulership of the divine. Nothing can change the cosmic process of your true unfoldment. Now, it also comes down to a more personal scale. People are worried about, well, what is someone going to say about me? What is someone saying about me? What are they going to do, right? Nobody has any power over your life. No one in politics, and no one in your neighborhood, and no one in your workplace. That's why my teacher used to stress always MYOD. Mind your own business, because you're the creator of what's going to happen. Whatever you send out, that's what's going to come back. Right? And so we have a lot of politicians, we have a lot of corporations demonstrating a very particular pattern of no spirituality is real. The law of love is BS according to them. You don't have to be honest. You don't have to be kind. You don't have to be loving, right? They express hatred. They demonstrate dishonesty, and they do it without compunction. And that's telling you all day long, spirituality is not real. You don't have to be loving. You don't have to be kind. You don't have to be truthful. That's what they're telling you. That's the message they're sending out. And it's BS. But you have to guard yourself against it, because it's a form of psychic pollution. It's toxic psychic patterns that are surrounding everyone. And for whatever reason, you're being given the knowledge, and look how few we have here, because these are very deep teachings. This is for real. You have to address your core issue eventually. This is the real stuff. And so for you not to be programmed by what's programming pretty much everybody else you deal with in your life requires a certain kind of armor. And the armor is awareness. Being aware of what you're taking in. Being aware of what you're taking in. Because what you're taking in is what's going to come out. And you don't try to convince other people, because the more you try to convince another person, the weaker you become in your own belief system. You don't try to convince them. You just focus on what you're doing with your power. That's what determines what's going to happen to you. And so I want to touch on several different points of how to master your power. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about that? Caitlin, do you have any questions or comments about that? How do you take that message?
No, I don't think I have any questions, but it certainly resonates, especially with regard to the personal aspect of putting your creative energy on what other people think, or even what they're doing, or comparing. I find that, I think that I was right in the perfect place when social media became such a universal phenomenon, that I was exactly the right age for all of the marketing that made me essentially addicted to the endorphins and the feelings that come with something like that. And I did it for a living for several years. So it like I got double whammied with all of that intake and input. And I've spent the better part of like the last 2 years really re-examining and changing my relationship with social media and being very intentional about it, and
I'm glad you
thinking about it a lot more than I ever did before. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was what I left that out. So the other, we looked at commercials, we looked at TV shows, movies, right? Even if you listen to a great song, right? And for the next 3 days, it's playing in your head, right? It's taking away your attention. It's taking away your intention. And we're going to see soon how important your intention is in directing your life. But social media is another example. People say, well, I'm curious what's going on in my friend's life, what's going on in this life. And while you're paying attention to what's going on in these other people's lives, you're overlooking how you feel. You're not necessarily directing your attention intentionally in line with your true purpose in the life you want to live. And the more you look at it, you start feeling needy and dependent and hopeless and helpless and weak and inferior and inadequate and confused and powerless. And that's the effect of minding other people's business, because it's taking your attention out of your own inner life. Wherever you put your attention is where your power goes. Whatever you hold attention on, that's where your power goes. If you hold your attention on the news, your power goes to the news. If you hold your attention on yourself, on self-observation, to get in touch with your own deeper intuition of how do I live right now, then that's where the power goes, and you become more and more empowered, right? And if you've been watching the news, you're seeing it's getting crazier. People are going way deep into evil, into unloving, hateful, dishonest, corruption, selfishness. It's going way, way far into that. And the farther it goes into that, the more you have to let it alone and treat those people as if they are. Lindsey Graham is irrelevant. It's irrelevant what they're up to. What am I up to? That's what's relevant to me. What are you up to? That's what's relevant to you. So whether it's social media, but I'm curious, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you have to be disciplined. Sometimes in Kabbalah we learn you can be some leniency with yourself, but you also have to have some discipline to be balanced. And just because you want to do it, it doesn't mean it's the right thing for you to do, right? So you'll watch on the news, right? And they'll focus on one situation where people are like yelling and attacking someone for wearing a mask. And they're going crazy. And they'll show the news 500 times a day. And you look around in your own life and you don't see it. Because your life is a manifestation of your vibration. But you keep focusing on that stuff, and then you're going to start gravitating toward that stuff. So this is an extremely important message to take with extreme sense of significance. Watch what you're watching. Whatever you're watching, you give your attention to, you're giving your power to. Whatever you're thinking about, you're giving your power to. You want to turn your power over to your own true will, to the way of wisdom now. And that means starting from neutral and opening up and paying attention to the present moment. Now, when you live with your, yeah, Pat?
Wouldn't it be like you'd almost have to be in solitary confinement? Like what?
But not externally though, only internally. Not externally. You want to be able to be, like Jesus said, you want to be able to be in the world, but not of it, right? It's not solid. We go from the cave of the heart to the marketplace and back. The Western wisdom tradition is not about leaving society and living on an ashram and meditating on your navel. It's about applying this stuff in the workplace, applying this stuff on the bus, at the bus stop, in the grocery store. Are you radiating love? Are you present when you're shopping at the grocery store? Or are you talking to yourself the whole time and gone into another planet while you're wheeling your cart around? And then when someone stops their cart in front of you, do you want to kill them? Right? Do you get angry? Do you get upset? Do you get frustrated with that? That's the work you need to do right there in the supermarket, right? But do you need to watch commercials? No. Even putting them on mute is not enough. If you're watching them, you're seeing somebody taking an action, feeling really good about it, and that's programming you to take that exact action. And then on a larger paradigm, it's programming you to believe in lifestyles of the rich and famous, that's where it's at, man. That you're living in a room that's full of gold and you're going to 5-star hotels and you're driving a Lamborghini, right? And that's where happiness is. And if that's where happiness is, those people wouldn't be hanging around with Jeffrey Epstein, right? Because the more you identify with the outer world, the more you got to push harder and harder and get more and more deranged and degenerate in order to get a thrill. And it takes you down further and further and further. The devil makes you go further and further down. God takes you further and further up. There's no limit to how far up you can go. So be disciplined when it comes to the focus of your attention. Social media, commercials, TV, movies, right? And absolutely the news. Because the news is all about somebody else and what they're going to do and the consequential nature of their actions upon your life. You know, during the Great Depression, there were people making millions hand over fist. Because why? Because you create your own economy. You live in a balanced, harmonious state. You live in consciousness of abundance, and you'll find you're always affluently supported by the universe to live in line with your purpose and fulfill your greatest dreams. Okay. Anybody else want to say anything? We just took a look at the dark side. Now we're going to take a look at the light side. And the light side is going to give you more insight into how that dark side works. Joan, did you want to say anything about it? Anything? No? Any comments, questions?
No, I was just adjusting my position. But first of all, I love what you said about procrastination. Like that was such a powerful tip to, you know, instead of feeling like I'm procrastinating something, is to just imagine doing it with joy. I love that. I want to share that with my son. And I totally agree with all the other things that you're saying. I'm not a big TV watcher or news watcher. And if I watch TV, I record something and fast forward through commercials. So I kind of stay away from all of that stuff.
You want to practice being conscious of how you're being programmed.
Yeah.
That's what you want to watch, because you're understanding how the programming process works.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Very
Dina,
powerful. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Dina, anything you wanted to share or add, or any?
No, I mean, I agree with everything that you've been saying and what other people have been sharing. And much like what Caitlin said, for some time now, I've been very conscious about the pages that I follow on social media, how much time I'm on social media, really since COVID started, because I just started feeling so anxious and, you know, upset about things as the world was going about this whole COVID and all the politics and everything. And so I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So I deleted things, and I just follow happy things and, you know, uplifting things. And I haven't watched the news in months, literally months. I really don't know what's going on. I figure if I need to know, someone will tell me. So
You just, the point is that you don't have to watch the news. You have to create the news.
right.
In your own life, you're going to create what happens. You're going to create the news. And Zoe, did you want to comment on any of this before we go into our next phase? Any of this resonate with you, or beyond being distracted by the dogs?
Yes, all of it. Yeah, all of it's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even. Yeah, it's.
Okay.
I can add anything more. This is really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to go a little bit deeper into what Joan was so inspired by, which is understanding the creative process. So if there's something you want to do, right? Let's say you want to write a book. You just envision yourself writing the book every day. You just think about what it is you want to do, and you think about doing it with positive emotion, with a positive feeling that it's going to be simple, easy, and fun. Whether it's doing your taxes or going to a family gathering, right? Now you can also use this for personal transformation, right? So the creative process, it starts with an intention, right? But then one of the things we have to look at is relationship skills. And look how many books, since the Gutenberg invented the printing press, how many books on relationship wisdom do you think have been published? And look at the state of relationships in our world today. It doesn't seem to be working, right? There's always a new book coming out, right? And I think people are using it more as weapons to throw at each other than to read it for a better relationship, right? So relationship skills and the creative process. So when you are, whatever's coming up inside of you, and Caitlin and I talked a lot about this on Friday, whatever is coming up inside of you in a relationship with another human being is what's coming up inside of you. Now, you're programmed by society to believe that spirituality is bullshit. That's the basic programming. That it's a materialistic world, and it's all about getting the more money you get, the more power you get, the happier you're going to be. And they're telling you spirituality is not real. Spirituality is real. And when you've actually had a spiritual experience, it transforms you into the realization that the law is only one law, and it is love. It is love, right? That you are loving. And in Christ talked about it, and it's also talked about in Judaism, in the Talmud, where they say all the commandments can be boiled down into just two: love your neighbor and love God. Okay, now let's look at this thing about loving God, because it's a lot deeper than most people think. What really is deep down inside your deepest underlying attitude toward God, toward life? Are you in a loving relationship with God, or do you resent God for the suffering you've been through? That's really important to look at, because we can use the method to clear away the blockage to loving God. Because as long as you're not loving God, you're holding on to some sense of victimization. You're holding on to a grudge. You're holding on to your suffering. Right? So it's loving God and loving your neighbor. Who's your neighbor? Right now, you're all my neighbor. I'm your neighbor. Your neighbor's who's ever next door. Your neighbor's who's ever next to you. Your neighbor's who's ever you're cooperating with or talking to or interacting with or encountering on the street. That's your neighbor. And so constantly be looking at, am I in a loving state or am I in an annoyed state? Am I in a loving state or am I in a frustrated state? Am I feeling resentful? Am I feeling any degree of negativity toward any human being, toward any experience, toward the universe as a whole? Because that's what I need liberation from. Because whatever I send out comes back. See, so what is my focus? Not on, what is Trump going to do next? What is Biden going to do next? No. Am I in a loving state right now? Am I feeling hatred? Am I feeling anger? Am I feeling vindictive? Am I feeling annoyed? Am I feeling any trace of condemnation toward another human being or toward a situation or toward an event? Is there any negativity going on inside of me? And if there is, I've got to let it go. I don't do what commercials tell me to do. Commercials say it's all going on outside of you. The news say it's all going on outside of you. No, I'm not going to blame another person for my angry spirit that I'm allowing to take over my energy and over my personality right now. I'm not going to make another human being, even though I was so programmed. My father was an absolute rageaholic. Right? My second wife was an alcoholic, rageaholic who ended up dying of alcohol poisoning. And the only way I could possibly have been attracted to that particular person was that I had that inside of me too. A tremendous amount of anger. I was angry, I was rebellious, I was destructive. It's a miracle that I'm alive. Just an absolute miracle that I'm alive. And all that anger ultimately had to come back to me, and I had to deal with it. by being treated in a way that I felt like I was being raped. Psychologically. Completely raped. Completely raped. And it all came onto me, and I had only one thing that I could do about it in order to transmute it, and that was to be kind, no matter what. My teacher used to say, never attack, not even back. When you attack, you go lower into the path of hell, including when you attack yourself. And that's where we start. We start with ourselves, that you are going to care enough about yourself to live according to spiritual law going forward. You're done trying to destroy yourself. It's over. Been there, done that. Now it's time to live in love. And the way I live in love is I own my annoyances. I own my irritations. I don't project the cause. Somebody cuts me off. Somebody beeps their horn in an angry way, and I flare up with anger. It's not their fault that I'm flaring up with anger. They're giving me an opportunity to see that angry pattern so I can disidentify with it and let it go. So disidentification is step number one. Okay, disidentification means that when the anger comes up in me, I realize it's something I need to let go of. It's not something that I am. It's a pattern I need to let go of. And it has to be applied to every person and every situation. That there's never negativity coming from me toward what happens. I have no more preferences to what happens. Whatever happens is an opportunity for me to free myself from negativity. If I cling too tight because I like it, then I'm going to reject it and be negative toward the opposite, and opposites always alternate in life. That's what the Wheel of Fortune represents. If you're really happy at a green light, you're going to be really upset at a red light. And that makes you feel powerless and codependent, dependent on the outer world. And then you blame the outer world for not giving you what you want. And I did that. And I was convinced that the world was wrong, the universe was wrong, because I wasn't getting what I wanted. And then I realized I don't need what I wanted. I got the method. I can be at peace. I can be in harmony. And I can use the method to free myself from any anger or resentment I'm carrying toward anyone or toward any situation. You do not judge a situation as bad, because that takes you out of the path of love. You just deal with what it is, and you deal with what comes up, and you don't identify with any negativity that you feel toward any person or situation or yourself. Self-anger is no different than being angry at another. Attacking yourself is no different than attacking another. You are an innocent, divine, sacred, cherished being. Now, the consciousness you're moving into is to know God with a pure heart. The consciousness you're moving into is to realize, and I can say this just because I'm talking to all ladies, that you are, from God's perspective, from the perspective of God, not a God outside you, the God you are, the real God, the divine nature. From the perspective, Father, Mother, God. Father is the spirit, Mother is the physical universe. From the Father, Mother, God perspective, you are a precious, sacred, cherished daughter. And the all-powerful divine would never allow anything bad to happen to you, ever. That's the consciousness you're moving into. And if you hold anything against yourself, you're holding something against God. There's nothing to hold against yourself. If you're feeling any guilt or any shame or any regret, you do the method until it's dissolved. You want to be able to accept the fact that you are absolutely precious and cherished and sacred in the heart of God, and God will never let anything bad happen to you. You are God's sacred, precious daughter. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't stub your toe in the middle of the night, because your body is not perfectly safe. We don't know what's going to happen to the body, but you're not your body. You're not your money. You're not your car. You're not your house. You're not your toenails. You're not your hair, right? You're none of that. You don't go into grief when you cut your hair and you see, oh, part of me is gone. Oh my God. No, that's not who you are. But you, as who you are, the eternal being that you are always perfectly safe. And you're always being given an opportunity to discover your safety and to discover how beautiful and loving the universe truly is. So what is your connection? What is your connection to eternity? Okay? Because the biggest fear everybody has is the fear of death. Everybody believes in death, right? You believe death is real. There is no death. Just like when you get a haircut and you see or you clip your nails and you see your toenails on the floor, you're not lying there on the floor. You're looking at what's lying on the floor. So how can you discover that you are an eternal being and that death does not exist? By staying focused in your present moment experience. When you are fully aware in the now, there is no thought of death. If you're thinking of death, you're going into the future, you're not in the now. When you live in the now, there is no death, it doesn't exist. And that's where you want to go, into eternity, into heaven. The gates are opening for you to go into heaven on the kingdom, right here on the kingdom of earth. Right here on the earth, you can go into a heavenly realm if you let yourself, by following these teachings. Okay. Anybody have a question about this? I know we're getting heavy here, and so I want to open up. Zoe, anything you want to say about this? Does this bring up any questions or comments or insights? I know we're going very, very deep. You know what? When we have a small group, we can go a lot deeper than when we have a big group. And so you obviously are going to get the deeper deal. So Zoe, anything you wanted to add or share around that?
Yeah, it's a little complex about the being in this body and God not being in this body. God not being this body, me not being this body. Like when you were, when I first started doing the method, it was actually the first time that I, for the first time, started feeling God inside, feeling God as an internal presence rather than, I feel like I always before related to my sense of God was always outside. And when I thought about God, I was always directing my attention and focus outside of myself. And then with the method, it shifted and it brought God inside of myself. And so, but then to disidentify with this body, which is where I feel God in myself, and which is really what has helped me a lot, feeling God inside this body, because I've had so much trouble being okay with this body. Like it was starting to feel like identifying with this body that I'm in as God, that this is God inside this body, which is helping me to love being in this body. And now to disidentify with this body.
Your body is basically a pet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your body is a pet. Your body is a vehicle. It's a living, organic vehicle through which your true self lives, expresses, and demonstrates on the earth plane. Your body is just a pet. Love your body. Treat your body well, just like you would treat your pet well. You wouldn't abuse your dog, right? You treat your pet well. Love your pet. Take good care of your pet. But you're not.
But that's kind of an identifying. So you kind of, to me, I have to really identify with something to love it. So that's tricky. The disidentifying with body to me is a tricky step.
Okay.
It's easier to disidentify with.
So let's look at it this way.
Outside, what's
Sure.
on the outside.
Sure. So let's look at it this way. Anybody who buys into the commercial world, right? Who buys into this war of the mind that is trying to get you to believe that all the power is outside of you, that you got to get outside things, you got to get outside approval, you got to get outside people to do certain things in order for you to be happy and safe, right? So all that's about is making you afraid. If you're saying like, oh wow, I got this beautiful home, finally we're safe. No, the home could be gone in a second. Or, oh, I was so nervous about my diagnosis and now I find out that I'm okay. But you can get a bad diagnosis tomorrow. If you're counting on the external world for your sense of safety and support, you've got to be in anxiety. Because it won't come through for you. It's all impermanent. If it's coming through for you now, it's going to change into something else. It's constantly transforming. So the state of safety and security is a state of consciousness. So let's talk for a moment about the power, the creative power of your state of consciousness, okay? So I mentioned earlier that if you feel like you're procrastinating, there's something you want to get to, it's just not time to take action. You got to build it up by thinking about it, right? But there's something deeper than thinking, and that's your state of consciousness. So when I teach people the soulmate process, I have a group going that through Lisa that everybody's just focusing on the soulmate process. And the first basic practice for anyone who wants to be in a soulmate relationship is to live in the consciousness that it is happening now. If you were in the absolutely perfect relationship, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, the absolute perfect relationship, summon up that feeling now. How would it feel to actually be in the perfect relationship? You're putting yourself into a state of consciousness when you do that. Now, that also happens to be the solution for all marriage problems, all relationship problems. Because instead of thinking about, well, he's unemotional, or he's emotional unavailable, or he doesn't show up on time, or he yells at me too much, or he's, rude, he's inconsiderate. Instead of focusing on all that, which is what you're going to manifest more of, you just drop it all. You drop the whole story and say, if I was in the perfect relationship now, how would that feel? Let me get into the consciousness of that experience now. And when you get into the consciousness of an experience, it's going to manifest. So instead of trying to solve marital problems, just get your attention into the consciousness of the experience you want to really be in. And in a matter of time, that relationship has to manifest, and it never fails. And then you can expand that to what we call the perfect day exercise. Where, right, if tomorrow is absolutely perfect, tomorrow's perfect in every way for you, where there's no limits to how perfect it is. If everything happened in line with your deepest heart's desire and everything was absolutely perfect, beautiful, heavenly, perfect, how would you feel right now if you knew that was what was going to happen tomorrow? That's how you want to practice feeling. See, this is the inner work of manifesting, of creating. It's mastering your state of consciousness. Now, there are times when you'll realize, I don't know what I want. I don't know what to want. Fine. Then you just suspend that process and you wait until you know. But you direct your life with your state of consciousness, not with what other people are going to say, think, feel, and do. With your state of consciousness. So let me ask you something. If God, the all-powerful force in the universe, was absolutely loving, the infinite power is perfectly loving, has perfect understanding of you. If your relationship with God was absolutely perfect in every way, forever and infinite, how would you feel? You practice going into that state and you'll experience what they call satori. But when you're worried, you're conscious of something else. You're conscious of what you don't want, and you're experiencing it as if it's happening. The power of consciousness, right? Now, there's one more aspect of the creative process that I want to touch on, and that's the process, okay? When you plant a seed in the soil, and you look at the surface of the soil, you don't see anything happening, right? But if you're experienced in gardening or in farming, you have faith. You trust that underneath the surface, in the invisible realm, it's invisible to you, underneath the surface, there's things happening. The seed is cracking open, a stem is coming out, the roots are coming out, a stem is coming forth. Lots is going on before you see it, right? Now, let's say you plant a seed and you say, oh my God, nothing's happening. You dig up the seed. Maybe there's something wrong. Let me crack it open and look. You just killed it, right? So the creative process is something you have to have faith and trust in, even if you don't see it happening right now. So if you want to have the perfect relationship, stop complaining. Because every time you complain, you're empowering what you don't want. Stop being critical. Every time you're critical of another person, you're manifesting more of what you don't want. Just shift your consciousness. Take control of your power. That's what's represented by key 1, is taking control of your power. The power of your consciousness. You have the ability to know these 4 rules of magic, to know, to will, to dare, and to be sound. You have the power to know what you want. Not just know it intellectually, but know it as an actual internal experience now. If you don't love God, it's because your consciousness is not focused on the fulfillment of your heart's deepest desire. If there's anything going wrong in your life, take your attention off of it and put your attention onto the perfect experience of life. If there's something going wrong in a relationship, take your attention off of it and put your consciousness into the experience of the perfect relationship experience. If you're having money issues, you take your attention off the money issues and you put it onto the perfect experience of life. If you're having interpersonal issues with people at work, you take your attention off of those problems and you concentrate on the consciousness. You practice putting your consciousness into the state of perfection. You're mastering your power of consciousness. That's what's represented by key 1 of the tarot, is mastery of the state of consciousness. You determine what manifests in your garden of your life. So get a stick, go out into nature, draw a circle in the sand or dirt, pick up that stick, and get in touch with perfection. Experience the perfect life. Experience the perfect eternity now. And you'll fall in love with God. And when you have that attitude toward God, that's going to be reflected into everything you want, manifesting by grace with no effort on your part. Things will manifest way beyond your power. And some people call that Christ consciousness. Is this powerful stuff? Yeah. Okay, so does anybody have any, let's just go around real fast for quick questions and comments before we go and do the method. And we're going to do the method on resolving any relationship issues we have with other people, any relationship issues we have with God, any relationship issues you have with yourself. If you have a tendency to be angry at yourself and to attack yourself, I suggest that's what you focus the method on now, on dissolving that anger. Okay, so let's just quickly go around and let's go. Caitlin, any comments, feedback? How does this all sound to you?
Okay, sorry, 1 second. It sounds as usual, as has been consistent with the way these classes have gone. What you're talking about is very relatable to the week that I've had, or the last few days that I've been working on things through. Just from, like a week ago, I missed our live session because my partner Darren and I were looking at a house because we had decided that is what we want and what's going to make us happy and make us feel like, we're in a real life and stuff. And we're looking at houses, and there's just the way that you do that is not right for us. And it took us going through the process and both feeling like off about it to get to the conversation of like, well, what if, because we are nature people and we want to be outside and we want land. And so we started talking about like, like if we could have anything that we wanted, we would have acres and build our own house or do whatever we want with that space. And so we start talking about that. And then that's the thing that's really exciting. And that's the thing that makes us feel alive and makes us feel like we're building a life. And to just allow, like you said, if you let it, like to allow ourselves to own that particular kind of wanting and desire and dreams, and to know that like the fact that we have that in each other and we both want that is the miracle. And that has been just a total shift in the way that I feel about him and the way that I feel about what we're doing and my life, because it all feels like it's mine. And I'm not thinking about what other people think is the right thing to do, because I can count on like maybe one hand people who are going to be like, yeah, that sounds fun. But like, it sounds like my dream come true, and it sounds like his dream come true. And then that's really the only thing that matters. Mm-hmm. So it's a good breakthrough, and it's helped me deal with a lot of my own emotional reactive patterns too. Like they've gone hand in hand, and I've been able to feel like I'm, I don't feel like I'm looking for things to go wrong or things to be mad at in the same way, or I'm much more conscious and aware of myself if I am doing it and falling into that pattern. And like you said, not identifying with it in the same way that I have in the past.
That's right. Very good, very good. And Pat, anything you wanted to say about what we've covered so far before we go into the method?
Yeah, when I was listening to you, Bob, before, and you were talking about the toenails on the floor and cutting your hair and everything in your body, the body, that you're not your body, you were saying, it brought up feelings inside of me. You hear so many times of beings on earth that they have near-death experiences, and then they come back and they relate to others what they experienced, whether that's people in healthcare or people in their family. And their stories all the time, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross books on it, they say they went out of their body towards the ceiling, and they looked down at what was happening to them and the people that were there, and they realized that they were looking at their body, but they were not in their body. They were above their body, observing their body. So what brought feelings to me on it is our spirit that's eternal, and that we're in our body like as a, what do you want to say? It's a temple. Some people say that, or a clay pot.
It's a vehicle. It's an instrument that you can function on the earth plane. It's just a vehicle, and you're there until the vehicle has served its purpose. And when the vehicle has served its purpose, you're out of there. Yeah. It's that simple. There's no tragedy.
And for some reason, when you're saying that there's no tragedy, until you were talking about this tonight with the fingernails and the hair on the floor and stuff, even though I've really felt strongly about people having those experiences, I really got a different sense inside of me tonight of it's beautiful that they're up above looking down. I just got a different spin on it, that they really are still eternal, looking down and observing. They're observing.
And they're also looking up because
Yeah,
they have a beautiful journey ahead.
yeah, light. And they talk about light all the time. The unbelievable love and light that they feel, but they don't want to come back, you know? And so,
Remember,
so I just had a different,
yeah, it's good.
a different perspective on it from
Any,
just talking about it.
anytime you're thinking about death, you're thinking. It doesn't exist otherwise. Now the body, yeah, it runs its course, but does the consciousness, does the self, does the soul? You say, well, I don't remember dying. You also don't remember being born,
Right.
but it happened. And all that happened when you were being born was you were dying to the world you came from and being born into the world you're coming into. And as you continue this work and you start to connect with your eternal self, you start to have those memories and you start to have that realization. And you realize that the personality you developed this life was just a temporary vehicle as well. We'll go into that in another class. But let's go to Joan. Just quick feedback on.
Oh, I mean, everything that you're saying makes so much sense. You know, it's simple. It's not always easy to practice it. Like it takes that discipline to be doing it all the time. But you know, that it makes total sense. And I know I was in a very, emotionally abusive marriage, and I journaled. And I would write about how much my relationship sucked all the time. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And, and then I realized like, all right, I'm creating this. I mean, I did have that realization back then. And I stopped writing in my journal about all the things that I didn't like in my life. And I would journal more positive things. I mean, I got divorced because that was the logical step. But I did it with more grace than I would have if I continued.
And we have to do these practices, the practice of dissolving anything but love with a present relationship, with our exes, with our parents, with anything, wherever there's any anger or animosity that we're carrying, we do the method on it to dissolve it.
Yeah.
Until we recognize, I just want to come from love. I just want to be a beam of love to all beings. I don't want to be annoyed by anyone. I don't want to be irritated by anyone. I don't want to disapprove of anyone. I don't want to be condescending, condemning toward anyone, right? Because all that puts me in those lower negative vibrations. And you can't have higher manifestations from lower vibrations. Dina, how does this sound to you?
That all sounds great. This was definitely very powerful tonight, sort of taking it all in, absorbing it. I really love the idea of the perfect day exercise. I'm definitely going to utilize that.
The perfect relationship exercise?
Yeah.
Perfect relationship, yeah. And Zoe, any closing words before we go into the method? Anything you wanted to share? Any impressions or insights, inspirations?
Not specifically relating to this class tonight.
Is there anything you want to share? Anything bubbling up?
Well, just that I've been thinking a lot about. Actually, well, I guess it does relate somewhat that embracing life and death. I was thinking about. I do yoga. I do yoga with Adrian on YouTube. Sometimes those 30-day class things, and each time she has a different word, different focus, and so I'll do the yoga and then half hour of that, and then I write a word, use that word of that yoga class as a prompt, and I write something, whatever comes to mind. And the word this morning was embrace, and I was thinking about how it's so, I guess what you're talking about today is related to embracing everything. If you're not having a preference one thing versus the next. You're kind of, you're not having a negative reaction to anything, and you're embracing life, and you're saying yes to life, whatever life is putting on your plate. You're choosing. It's a conscious choice to embrace it. And the only way that you can live a positive life is if you are embracing whatever is dropping into your lap. And what your teachings are all about is helping us to embrace whatever drops in your lap. But I was thinking about how much, over the time that I've been doing the method and kind of working on these principles and being conscious of these principles in life, I'm noticing, like I am embracing life in a way now that I never have, like I never have before. I was used to fall so victim to, to pessimistic thinking and ways of being. And that's all kind of dropping away. And I'm just noticing today, wow, I'm embracing life. But then I was thinking, so now I'm getting a lot of practice and much better at embracing life. And but then I was thinking this morning, well, what if I was to be told that given a diagnosis of, if I suddenly discovered I had a terminal illness, and would I be able to, in the state that I'm in now, would I be able to embrace death? Now I can embrace life. Could I embrace death? But then I thought, well, that's just a thought. And it didn't make me feel good to start thinking about having to embrace death. And then I thought, okay, well, I should just not be thinking about the future. I just need to be embracing right now, this present moment, and not be associating this moment with anything, just stripping this moment bare of everything. Just strip it bare of everything that it's not. Just focus on what this moment right here is that I'm in right now, and don't think about anything else. Then, don't get into stinking thinking.
That's perfect. If the thought makes you feel bad, the bad feeling is telling you don't think it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's so subtle. We have to be so conscious. We let go of our suffering that way. If a thought makes you feel bad, don't think it. It's not, the feeling is telling you don't think it. Just like if you put your finger in the fire and it burns, the burn is telling you don't put your finger in the fire. Stay away from it. So when a thought makes you feel bad, don't think of it. Don't think it. When you are feeling bad, remember the practice that you don't think, because your feelings are like a tuner that determines where your thoughts go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we're going to go through the method, and we're going to focus on relationships, okay? And let's start by focusing on your relationship with yourself. And if there's anything about you that you feel disrespect for, if there's anything about you that you look down upon, if you have that pattern of self-hatred that you got since childhood, let it come up. Let it come up. If there's been this pattern inside of you that you really don't like yourself, that you don't think you're good enough, that you don't feel like you're worthy of love, that you hate yourself, that there's a drive to destroy yourself, to hurt yourself, face those feelings now. Any anger that you feel toward yourself, any way that you feel dishonored or dishonorable or unworthy, let those feelings come up now. All the anger you've ever felt toward yourself, remember, maybe it was when you were a teenager, maybe it was last week, maybe it was 5 minutes before the class, maybe it was when you were 4. But let those feelings come up. The feeling of shame, the feeling of not good enough, the feeling that I'm less than perfect. The angry attitude towards self. Let it come up. The criticalness, feeling of criticalness towards yourself, let it come up. Now, if there's anybody else in your life that you've been holding a grudge against, maybe you resent one of your parents, right? Maybe you find yourself getting irritated and annoyed by a neighbor or by your child, right? Or by your dog, right? wherever there's been annoyance, remember the situations where you tend to feel annoyed, frustrated, impatient with another person. And just let those feelings come up now. Don't push them down. Don't try to control. Let them come up. Let yourself feel them fully. Feel those feelings of anger and resentment toward others. If there's anybody that you feel took advantage of you or took advantage of someone you love, let yourself feel that anger now. Let yourself feel that resentment now. Let yourself feel that criticalness. If there's anything about your life that makes you feel angry at God, let those feelings come up. If you have had a tendency to be angry at God, rebellious against the divine, rebellious against the universe, treating life as something less than sacred, not wanting to be alive because life seems too hard and too unfair and too ugly. If you're having any of those kind of feelings, let them come up. Really bring it up now. All the stuff that happened. If there's anyone in your life that you feel a blockage to feeling love for, feel the blockage. Just let it come up. You're not going to try to force yourself to feel love for that person. Just let the energy come up. Let the feeling come up. Feel any negativity that's in there toward any event that you've ever been through, toward any person you've ever been with, any animosity that you have, let it come up. Now feel it fully. And as you notice these feelings of animosity coming up, see if they remind you of one of your parents, your mother or your father or both. Notice that it's a learned pattern that came from that parent. And if one of your parents did tend to get into the state of animosity, go back and notice the interaction, the dynamic between your parents when that parent was under the influence of animosity, under the influence of anger or hatred or condemnation, standing up on a soapbox and pointing down and you did this and how could you do that, blah, blah, blah. And notice the dynamic in the relationship and see if you can see that dynamic between your parents playing out in you, that you demonstrate both sides of that equation. And now what I want you to do is that I want you to feel compassion for yourself, for your mother and father, for all the suffering the three of you have endured throughout your entire life. You have gone through so much pain, so much pain. It's a miracle that you lived through it, but you did. I want you to feel compassion for all the pain that you have gone through in life, for all the suffering you've gone through and all the suffering your parents went through in their life. Just feel compassion for the three of you. Now, I want you to shift into a feeling of appreciation for yourself right now for the fact that you did survive all that pain. You've gone through so much and you're still standing. You're still here to tell the tale. And you're willing right now to face it all, to feel it all, and to let it go. That's how powerful you are. That's how amazing you are. I want you to feel appreciation for yourself, for your willingness to do this inner work. It takes tremendous courage, tremendous inner strength. You're going up against everything that's stopping everyone in the world from treading the spiritual path. You're coming up against it and you're going through it for everybody. That's how much you should appreciate yourself. And now I want you to feel love for yourself. You're very loving. All of you are very, very loving people. Get in touch with the loving nature, your loving nature, and feel it towards yourself. All the love you wish you got from your friends, all the love and understanding you wish you got from your parents, give it to yourself now. All the love you want from anybody in your life, give it to yourself now. Give yourself that kind of love that you want from your best friend, from your partner, from your lover, from your ex-lover, from your deceased lover. It doesn't matter. Give yourself all the love you want from everyone. Feel that now to the best of your ability. Feel your love for you. 100% love for you right now. I now feel a space opening up inside of you. And feel that space expanding and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until that space is as big as the universe. And now in that space, I want you to feel filled with divine energy, and feel divine energy filling you up, filling you up, filling you up until it's as big as the universe, big as the space you created, and feel divine energy everywhere now. Just rest in the divine presence. This is where spiritual healing takes place, in the divine presence. Just feel the divine presence now. The presence that is beyond judging any experience as better or worse. Lose all negative judgment and just rest in the divine. And now we're going to shift into a feeling of self-value. And I want you to feel towards yourself that you are of infinite value. You are of infinite value to the universe, just the way you are. You are a sacred gift to creation, just the way you are. You don't have to change. You don't have to grow. You don't have to do anything. You are a sacred gift. You just have to be. You are a sacred gift to creation. Try to feel that towards yourself. And try to feel that you are the cherished daughter of the divine. And God will protect you and see you through everything, and you never have anything to be concerned about. Your true spirit is immortal and eternal. Now become aware of your gifts and talents, the things you do that get you into the flow, that get you into the zone, where you just feel like things are flowing. For me, it's writing, it's doing this kind of talks, playing the drums, right? Playing with children. Whatever it is that gets you in the flow, I want you to feel the feeling of when you're in the flow. Could be baking, could be cooking, could be cleaning, organizing. When you're just in that flow and it's just coming through you, feel what that feels like. That grace. Now feel like you're connecting to everyone in the human race. Because what you're really doing when you do this part of the exercise is you're becoming aware of your connection to everyone in the human race. We're all one. Everyone is aware of you, and you're aware of everyone. And I want you to feel that you're connecting with everyone in the world in a spirit of unconditional loving support. That right now you are helping everyone to find liberation from their suffering, to awaken to the light of truth, the light of wisdom, the light of God. You're helping everyone liberate from their suffering and to find the joyous way of living and loving and creating in harmony with nature. And I want you to try to feel that everyone is sending you their gratitude and appreciation for the contribution you're making. And at a soul level, that's what's actually going on. You're always doing just what everyone needs you to do, and everybody knows it. And on a soul level, they're grateful to you for it. So I want you to feel what it would feel like if everyone in the world right now, the whole human race, was expressing their gratitude and appreciation to you on a spiritual feeling level. Try to feel that. And now feel yourself in the state of unlimited abundance. Total unlimited wealth. Millions, billions. There's no one in the world who's richer than you. You always have access to unlimited resources. Experience your infinite abundance as your real, permanent condition now. Feel it. And feel your commitment to stay in abundance consciousness no matter what appearances. Realize your abundance is your state of consciousness. And that's what manifests it. And then finally, feel yourself turning it all over to God, just trusting whatever happens is perfect. You're going to let go of all efforts to control, influence, manipulate. No sense of responsibility or obligation. You're turning it all over to the universe to handle for you. God's infinite love and God's infinite intelligence is going to handle it all. You can completely rest in the loving arms of God right now. And as you feel that sense of surrender, take a nice deep breath. When your lungs are filled, hold your breath for 3 seconds. And when you exhale, feel like you're completely letting go. Okay. So our practice for the week, between now and when we meet again, is practice no negative judgment toward any person, place, or thing, no experience. You don't treat it as negative. There's nothing going wrong. It's all perfect. You're going to release yourself from negative judgment. Namaste. I love you. Thank you, Kelly, for putting this together tonight. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Maybe we'll have a bigger group, maybe small, it doesn't matter. But whatever the group is, it's going to be just right for us. So thank you all so much. I'll see you all next week.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Bye-bye.